Hi, I am Pratham. Today in this video we are going to discuss about the JWT token and how it works and some of the advantages and disadvantages of using that token and how to tackle when it gets hijacked. So without wasting any time, let's get dive into it. So let's first discuss what is JWT and how it looks like. So JWT is a JSON-based web token. As the name clear that the JWT looks like a JSON and it contains some of the things like it has header, it has its payload, and it has a signature. So what are the headers? Headers in JWT tells us which algorithm is being used while signing this token, and the payload is the data on which signing performed, and this can be any data of the user. This can be any secret data, and we should not use any secret data here because it's a reason, and we should use here some keys like which can easily identify the user. And last one is the signature. The signature of this whole token is written here. So why shouldn't we pass any secret data to here? Because JWT token is not an encrypted token, but it acts like a transparent token that anyone can see the payload data from it by reversing the header algorithm. So how it maintains the integrity? It maintains the integrity using the signature. Whenever we change anything on the payload, the signature gets changed and the whole token gets changed. So when some attacker and user are trying to update the payload and trying to sending some invalid data to us, then this signature gets changed and we will get the point that the signature has changed and someone is trying to send something invalid to us, and we will not pass the authentication. So let me show you a debugging tool of the JWT and how it looks like. So this is first one is a header, as I mentioned, and here we are using this algorithm, and the second one that is the payload, and you can see that it looks like this, and the third one is the signature of this entire. So whenever I try to change this, you can notice that the signature gets changed. So this helps us to maintain the integrity of this token. And it is not encrypted, so anyone can see the data inside it. So we have to pass something that is not a secret data here, but it should help us to identify a unique user. Here name can be, but we should pass a ID of the user. That will be more helpful and help us to find an individual user uniquely. So this is how JWT tokens looks like. Now let's discuss how can we send it across the client and the server. So first client will try to log in, and then we will give the client the JWT token, and client will access the data using that token. And there will be two scenarios. Like in the first scenario that we will get the response, and in the second scenario that our token gets expired and client need to re-log in to the system. But it will be a bad user experience to re-log in again and again in the little time frame. So what can we do? We can increase the expired time of this JWT token, but this creates a one more problem to us, that if someone gets our JWT token, then he will have access to our server and he will get the data on the behalf of the client using that token. So it will be a risky, and we can't deny a JWT token until it gets expired. So this can be a one problem. And also when user try to log out, we can just remove sending the JWT token along with the API server request, but this JWT token is valid until it gets expired. So if user save this token along with himself and use that token anywhere, then he already has the access of our server and he can access even without login using that token. So how can we tackle this problem? That we can just assign a less expired time, but this will again create that problem. User have to log in and re-log in again and again. So how can we tackle this problem? That we can have something like in DB, but using a DB is a bad option here because we want our authentication service faster. So we will use some in-memory database or in-memory cache. So we will going to use here a Redis that will handle the data in the in-memory. So what we will do, we will just give a considerable firing time in the JWT token and we will just save that JWT token as a denial token when user logged out to the system. So whenever a user try to relog in using that JWT token under the expiry time, then we will check that thing inside our Redis and check if it is present in the denial tokens. Then it will not allow to log in using that token and user have to relog in with its credentials and get the new JWT token. But there is one more problem using this. If somehow our Redis will go down, then this token and the previous assigned token both are valid and user can access our data using both the token. So this is not a good option to use it. So how can we tackle this problem? Let's see. We have a client here and we have a server here. Server, this is gonna be a client. So we will introduce something here, a refresh token. So let me just tell you about the refresh token. So refresh tokens are the tokens which are opaque in nature and that will help us to validate our JWT token in a better way. So how refresh tokens works here and help us to get rid of this condition. So let's check it. When user try to log in, he will get the JWT token and the access token along with it. So he will get the access and refresh token and now he can access the data using the access token and send refresh token along with it. So when access token is valid, he will get the data. Otherwise, what we will do, we will use that refresh token to validate the access token. While generating the refresh token, we will save the refresh token in our Redis. When this access token gets invalid, we will check the refresh token in our Redis and the refresh token which is sent by the client. We will match both the token and if both token matches, we will generate a new access token and a new refresh token to the user, and now user will use that refresh token and access token, to get the data. And again asking for this and to get the data. And when user logged out, we will just remove this opaque token from our Redis and he will not able to relog in because we will give the JWT token as expiry time like in a matter of minutes, like 1 minute and less than that. And because of using this refresh token, user don't have to relog in again and again. And this will also save us, because if Redis will go down, that means that we have lost all the refresh token for a moment and user needs to relog into the system, and we will generate a new refresh token and save it to the Redis and get back to the user. Let's discuss how refresh token help us to identify the attacker if someone is trying to using a leak JWT token. So let's discuss it, how we can identify whether someone is faking us or not. That let's assume that this access token and refresh token gets leaked and someone else is trying to send this access and refresh token to us and get the data. Let's assume the first response is by a attacker, and at the moment our access token is invalid. So we will just match the token and it gets matched, and we generate the new access token and refresh token and send back to the client. So our attacker has a new access token and refresh token. Now our real client will try to use the old tokens and try to access our server using that old token, and we have assumed that our access token gets invalid, and it is invalid for now, and we have to check again that in our system we have another refresh token for the moment or this particular user, and when we match the token it will not get matched, and we will know that someone is trying to take our system, and we will just remove this user from this Redis server, so all the login respective to this user gets automatically logged out. So this is how refresh token saves us from the malicious attack on our server. So now let's see these all things in a implementation part. So let me show my window that I have coded already the part, so it will take some less time, and I will just go through my code and you will get the things like in the servers.js we have our express application, and we have just assigned the parser, JSON parser, and the normal URL encoded parser to it, and listen on our code. And we have one API, host API /users, which will just create a new user in our system. For just implementation I have just used a fake implementation here and not saving data to anywhere. And here I have also generated a refresh token and send it back to the user. And this one more route, that users list, that is a private API and it needs authentication. So let's check how our JWT util library looks like. So this is going to be a JWT secret, which will help us to assign the payload using this JWT secret, and we should not declare it here, right? We should declare it in environment file, and we will make it as secret because it is the main key, and if someone gets access of this key then our whole system gets hijacked, and then any can will play with our system. So this is the function which help us to generate the access token using this JWT secret, and I have passed the payload and gives it the expire time 60 seconds. And this is the function which help us to verify the token. We'll just use the JWT verify and verify the token. If it gets error, we will reject the promise, otherwise we will resolve the promise with the payload data. And this is the token which help us to decode the payload, and this is the function which help us to generate refresh token and save this refresh token to this object. So I have used the in-memory object, but you should use Redis for that, and gives a expiry time as well, like for a month, because after a month we must need to use it to sign in again to recheck their credentials. So I have just saved it to there and just use a random string here to generate a refresh token, and get refresh token, just return that refresh token to us. So we have one middleware that is going to authenticate our private APIs. So we'll get the tokens in the authorization header, authorization key, and we will get the token from that auth header, and we will get two token and refresh token, and we will first check whether there is a token provided by the client. So if it is not, then that means that the user is not logged in. We will just respond back with 401 status code, that is unauthorized user. And now if token exists, we will try to verify the token, and if that exists, that's a green sign, and we will just assign that user to our request object. So other APIs will use that user object for the further process. And if somehow our verification gets failed, like the timeout error and the wrong token error, if the timeout error, so we will handle it using a refresh token. If refresh token exists, then we will check that the real token and the refresh token provided by the user should match. If that not matched with each other, we will just send invalid refresh token, and If it's matched, then we will generate a new response and access token to the user and send back to the user. So this is how our authentication middleware look like. I will push this code into my GitHub account. You will exact code from there, and please check the description for the link. And now let's check our authentication service. I don't know how can we magnify this screen. So this is our list URL, that private URL. If we try to access this, we will get invalid refresh token because I have provided the tokens in header, the wrong token in the both case. So, and this is our user create API. Let's create a user and it will create a user for us. So just let's copy a new refresh token and just put it here. And now let's try to send it, that we get the new refresh token and access token. And now if I use this new JWT token, let's use it here, we will get the list of the user and we get the access to the system. So this is how the JWT implementation works, and the concept of refresh token help us to being hijacked. And the one more advantage of using JWT is that we don't have to save this JWT token to anywhere. So it will also help us to save some store in the database, but we have to save this refresh token and we are saving this to our Redis server. So it will just take that space. And JWT tokens are the good way, and many of the organization accepted it as a standard and use the JWT token for their API authentication. So we can use that JWT standard for us and also make our API secured using that JWT token. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. And for more such content like this, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, and let me know the new videos you want on this channel in the comment section. And also let me know how this video helps you, and if you learn something new from this video in the comment section. Thank you for having me, and thank you for watching the video.